You're listening to the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix podcast on Formula1 FanCast. To keep up to date with the latest Formula 1 news, visit www.formula1fancast.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Formula1 FanCast.
Formula 1 has not exactly covered itself in glory within the past week, but Canada certainly served us up with yet another thrilling race despite the long delay due to heavy rain. Jenson Button put in a stunning drive to win his first race of the 2011 season. Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber came home in second and third. Here with me to review the Canadian Grand Prix, Paul Hadsley, for a truly memorable race with incidents galore.
Yes, I mean you need more of a memory because it lasted longer than most people can save in their actual memory. It was like, what? How long was it in the end? 4.5 hours, 5 hours?
Yeah, something like that.
Compared with all the, as well as all the red flags and that. Oh, we were watching birds at one point. We were having a boat race. We were watching people sweep up water and fall over. It was everything happened.
Well, before we do look back at the weekend in Canada, the Bahrain Grand Prix will not be going ahead this year. The decision was made after the teams objected to the rescheduling of the race. Paul, without question, the right decision's been made in not going to Bahrain.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's a few political games being played there. It's kind of more political than actually, and sadly the people of Bahrain had to suffer through it, but there's so much going on in that country. If 22 millionaires turning up in their rich cars isn't really going to help the situation at all. So they've got bigger fish to fry, they've got bigger things to do in their country than watch cars go around in circles. As much as we love it, you know, they've probably got to get their house in order first, and they probably don't need the distraction of all these millionaires and security. And as a Formula 1 fan, I mean, it's not the greatest race, so I won't really miss it.
And nothing I want to touch on just before we look back at the fantastic Canadian Grand Prix. I saw the Senna movie last week. Have you seen it, Paul?
I have indeed. The twist at the end was a bit I saw that coming a bit. I can't make jokes about that, but yeah, I know it was very good. I was amazed about all the there was no narrator or anything. It was just like clip, 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 and it's like, how does that work? But he made a great story.
And I suppose one word you can use to actually describe the film is touching.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the ending was yeah, we all knew it was going to happen. It was inevitable, but that was kind of what was the tragedy of it. You know, we could see the ending coming and all the plans he had for the future and the Senna Foundation, etc. And then it was taken from him for one horrible weekend, and so it gives you shivers just thinking about it. I could see it coming. I was like welling up in the cinema, but yeah, it didn't make it any easier.
Well, in the film itself, we got to see how much joy and how much of an inspiration Senna was to the Brazilian people. Yeah. We saw Senna's rivalry with Alain Prost, which I found very, very intriguing. Yeah. And plus the fact we also got to see what Adrian Newey and Ron Dennis looked like with hair. But seriously, I must see for all you Formula 1 fans out there. Coming on to the Canadian Grand Prix now, and Sunday definitely belonged to Jenson Button, the 2009 world champion, even though he was at one point at the back of the grid, came through the field and managed to get past Vettel on the final lap to truly take a sensational win. Paul, hands down, that has to be Jenson's best ever race win in Formula 1.
It does, but it kind of reminds me of his first, where he started 16th as well in a wet race, and the championship protagonists all fell off and had issues. That was a great drive. I cannot take it away from him. That was amazing. He'd been like every place, hit a few cars, you know. But in a race like that, that's just inevitable. That was like a championship. It's like I just watched Le Mans all day, and that felt like a whole championship in one day. And then then there was Button's drive. Well, the Canadian Grand Prix, which felt like a whole championship worth of excitement in 2 hours or 4 hours. But yeah, it was absolutely amazing that you could go back and forth. You could go back to the back of the grid, come to the front. You know, we had Massa leading at some point, and Button's drive was just fantastic. You know, he kept his head down. You think if it was his teammate, you know, he may have just lost it and gone had a crash. But Button had a few incidents, got through it, kept his head down, and amazingly was there where it counted in the last lap. And what a last lap it was!
And you have to say, Button was supreme in his final stint.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, what happened? He went from we took so many cars. He went from he was 8th at some point, and then watched carefully as Schumacher and Webber were fighting, and just picked his way through that. And it was amazing to watch.
And to top it all off, he won the race by making 6 stops.
6 stops, yeah. Well, one was a penalty, wasn't it? Aryton Senna was at great pains to point out a lot. He's been through the pit lane so many times, but you know, if it works with the weather like that, you have to just play the conditions. He tried the intermediates, which would work, were great for the moment. And then suddenly, as soon as it was getting some advantage, and he looked like he was going to, you know, lap everyone. Before the red flag, then the the heavens completely opened. Then the boat raced down to the hairpin, and it's the worst decision. But in the end, then they threw the red flag. After Monaco, when changing tyres was a bad thing and ruined us of excitement, this time we kind of got the grandstand finish we lost 2 weeks ago.
Well, it was yet another weekend Lewis Hamilton will want to forget. Hamilton was forced to retire after colliding with race winner Button when he tried to pass him on the pit straight on lap 8. Lewis had also been involved in an incident with Mark Webber 2 laps earlier. Let's cut to the chase. In your opinion, who was to blame in the Hamilton-Button incident?
That was just I think.
Or was it purely racing incident?
I'd say racing, because the mirrors are tiny, and obviously the last thing Button or Hamilton are going to do is hit the teammate. That was just an accident. Button had done a bad chicane, he got wide, and Hamilton had the run on him. But Button, I don't think, saw him coming, so he's moving over to the dry line or to the wet part, which I can't remember now. But he should have maybe looked in his mirrors a bit more, but he was just so concentrated on Michael Schumacher ahead. Hamilton should have backed out. It was just 50-50, and there was no penalty from it. So for once, there was no penalty for Hamilton. I don't know what's up with him. Mark Webber was clearly his fault when he hit Mark Webber. He just seems to be still angry from Monaco, and I said he's got to get the anger out of his system. Come back, it'll either be a great performance or a terrible one. It was a terrible one, sadly, and he's got to get this rage he feels out of his system. He feels when Lewis gets down, he feels the world's against him, or the whole world's against him for whatever reasons he says, and he needs to get that system, because when he's on top of his game, he's unbeatable. He just needs to get this rage or anger he's feeling out of his system, because you can't drive angry, you just have it crashes, and 2 more today to add to the 4 he had at Monaco, so what can you do?
And Hamilton really does need to get his season back on track in Valencia.
It would be good. It's not exactly his greatest track last year, was the whole safety car thing. It's kind of not his best track, but got to use that as a testing bed, and if you do that, you can do well at Silverstone. Goodness knows what the weather will do there.
Well, the Red Bulls of Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber finished second and third. For Vettel, everything was going swimmingly well until the final lap, where he put a wheel offline on the wet part of the track at turn 6, which enabled Button to get past. Sebastian, obviously will be disappointed to finish second, but he can't complain with how the season's panned out for him so far.
He can cry into the Championship Cup when he gets it. Don't worry about that. I mean, it's nice to see a different winner, but he was still there to pick up the pieces, let's face it. And the only other time anyone else has won a race, he was second there too. So he's not really in that much danger in the championship. It was pretty much a faultless race until the last lap. He was perfect again, and he had the look, which we've talked about before. He put in some great drives, got a gap. The safety car kept coming out and ruining it. He did great restarts. And then just on the last lap, I think it's all going well, and Vettel's impenetrable. He makes a tiny mistake and Button through. But he was under pressure, and that maybe since China, that's the first time he's been under pressure. So, apart from Monaco, actually, I think about that. But Monaco, I'm sure his tyres hadn't quite got to the point of falling off the cliff. But yeah, he was under pressure and he made a mistake.
And not a bad result for Mark Webber either.
Yeah, Webber, he looked like he had something going for him when on Friday Vettel binned it, put it in the Wall of Champions, another name for the list, and Webber was like, hang on, maybe we can do something. But Webber, again, another topsy-turvy race. Why is he always in these situations when his teammate is blissfully leading from the front? Why is he the one that has to fight? Is it team favouritism? Is it just that he's not as good? Is it his age finally showing? He says he's likely to, things are calm, he's not rushing to sign a new contract. If I was him, I'd be banging down the door and get that new contract signed, because Red Bull may be looking elsewhere.
Webber was involved in an intriguing three-way battle between himself, Button and Michael Schumacher in a latter stage of the race. Bearing in mind this was a track that they were supposed to struggle on, Red Bull still finished second and third.
Exactly, it wasn't a strength. It wasn't a Red Bull highlight last year. They were about fifth after it was McLaren and Ferrari last year. This year we expected it to be the same again. Great race last year, great race this year. Just different winner, and Red Bull seem to be impenetrable at the minute. There's no stopping them no matter where you go.
Well, a podium finish was on for Michael Schumacher at one stage, but the 7 times world champion just missed out and finished the race 4th. Paul, if you were Michael Schumacher right now, how would you be feeling?
Well, it's finally coming together for him. Maybe it's just the rain, maybe, I don't know. Mercedes have got a problem with their tyres. They eat up all their tyres quicker than any other team, so maybe that's the issue. But when it comes to a wet race, and there may be a couple more this year, Michael Schumacher had the old touch, the old Rainmeister himself, as they used to call him. He couldn't quite make the next step to challenge the Red Bulls, but it looked like he was going to be on for a good result and sort of hopefully something to build on for the future. Didn't quite get the podium he needed, but it was nice to see. Not too much stupid weaving, and some good overtaking, some harsh but fair defending, and great performance from Michael.
And be honest with me, Paul, did you want Schumi to finish in the top 3?
Yeah, I don't know. If this is his last year, you might want to give him a farewell. If it's not, you wanted to give him something to motivate him. That race will have motivated him. He will have taken a lot of stock from that race and said, yes, I can still do it. I have still got it. If there's a wet race again, I am the king. My car, I cannot outdrive my car at the moment. I've still got the performance. My car hasn't. That's what he'll be thinking after Montreal.
But nonetheless, Michael can take a lot of positives from the weekend in Canada, and that 4th place finish could be the kickstart that he needs.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a building block. Well, at one point he was second after the restart, and I was saying we needed one formerly dominant German to take the fight to another formerly dominant German. It was nice to see. I want to see like the old guard teaching the newbies, and obviously the newbie came off better, but I want to see Vettel and Schumacher go at it and see how that would come.
Schumacher's teammate Nico Rosberg finished outside the points. We haven't really talked about Vitaly Petrov ever since he finished 3rd in Australia, but Petrov put in a sterling performance to finish 5th on Sunday. And Paul, decent day's work for Vitali, much needed points for Renault in their battle for fourth with Mercedes in the Constructors.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, his teammate went a bit wild, but he brought it home and he kept his head. Great performance from him, and again, should give him some pause that, if it's a wet race, he can surprise some people. Renault early on in the year, they had the best starts, and we're thinking that was going to be their strength, but hey, they take whatever they can get, and Petrov last year was just a pay drive, and everyone laughed at, and this year his performance is taken, it's not just up a gear, it's up like 4 steps. It's amazing. It's just, I can't believe last year everyone wrote him off as pay drive, and this year he's actually getting some credibility.
It hasn't exactly been a spectacular season for Petrov, but it's been a solid start nonetheless.
Well, there's been no stupid crashes, apart from Malaysia when he went flying. But yeah, apart from that, it's been some solid performances. He's not been last year he was flying off whenever he could, and Kubica was the one that everyone thought, he's the future. But Petrov actually, brought his stock up a bit this year.
Ferrari's Felipe Massa came home in 6th after getting past Kamui Kobayashi on the pit straight on the final. That was almost a photo finish.
Yeah, that was. What was I watching? Was this NASCAR? What was happening here? Sometimes it happens, but if only that was for the lead, that'd be brilliant. But no, that was great. And at one point, he was ahead of Alonso. I think he outperformed Alonso quite a lot this weekend. Just in last qualifying session, Alonso just nipped him, but Alonso obviously was off the road, and Massa was on bringing it home. He had a bit of a scare of a back marker, which was a bit silly. But he had slick tyres and he tried to go over into the wet. It's bound to happen. But he survived that. It's not the only one that had a few incidents that race. So he kept it going, kept his head, and he finished, and his teammate didn't.
Well, Fernando Alonso was another driver who was forced to retire after colliding with Jenson Button. Again, let's cut to the chase. Who was to blame for that incident?
That one I'll give to Alonso the blame. Jenson was well alongside, and there's no chance he didn't see him. He just tried to be brave on the brakes. It reminded me very much of Montoya. Was it Rosberg about 2006? They had the same, very similar collision, and it was just why do you need to turn in? Everyone else would have gone across the grass, and he would have lost the place, but you'd still been in the race. Alonso, I'll give that to Alonso because that was silly.
And it was a shame we had to see the race start under a safety car, because it would have been interesting to see Vettel v Alonso into the first corner.
Yeah, it would have, but it's health and safety in Formula 1. They needed a couple of laps into safety car to try and remove the water before they went to start, so they're not going to give you a safety car start and then stop and then do a grid start. So what can you do? It's always going to be after a red flag a safety car start, and sadly that's the way. You get one start a race and that's it.
Sauber's Kamui Kobayashi finished the race 7th, but Friday saw Pedro de la Rosa being drafted in to replace Sergio Perez for the remainder of the weekend after the Mexican was unwell after first free practice. Paul, I suppose it'd be right to say that Perez hasn't quite shaken off the effects of what happened in Monaco.
Kudos to him, because some people would have just tried to get through it and put in a below par performance, and then probably made the injury worse for the rest of the season. He needs time to recuperate, and he told the team that, and that's what he got. But De La Rosa, they fired last year for Heidfeld, suddenly is back in favour, and he's obviously still race fit. He's been testing with McLaren, so he's quickly grabbed him in his McLaren overalls, put him in the car. He hit the wall straight away. But I didn't really see much of him in the race. But I think they needed someone. Otherwise, if they withdrew the car, they get a big fine. So it's better that than no one at all.
Williams' Rubens Barrichello finished 9th for the second consecutive race, and both Toro Rosso drivers finished in the points. Jaime Alguersuari finished 8th, and Sebastian Buemi picked up the final point by coming home in 10th. And Paul Alguersuari, he really needed those points, didn't he?
Yeah, it's a great performance, and he needs all the points he can get. It's these days like this when you think, yes, any point is available, I'll just take what I can get. Normal race, that Red Bull are going to be first, McLaren second, the team-wise, and then Ferrari, points are hard to get, even though they've changed the system. So a day like this, you think, let's go for it. Anything is up, and my car, might be horsepower down, but it's in the wet, so it doesn't matter. Might be lack of grip, but it's wet, so it doesn't matter. Let's go for it. And he put in a good performance to get whatever points are on offer.
No doubt Alguersuari is under severe pressure from Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, there's still rumours that he may be promoted up. There's still rumours that he may just be kicked out completely, like Bourdais was. Toro Rosso, they're there to groom the next talent, so you can't get too safe in that car.
And again, Buemi finishes the race in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't know how many points that is, because I can't even remember the new point system, but he's doing well to get any points. To say, on a day like yesterday, points are on offer. Any other day, maybe not so much, just you end up 13th, 14th. You just go for what you can. He did well to bring the car home, and a lot of people didn't, including a few world champions.
The double points finish saw Toro Rosso leapfrog Force India in the Constructors, and that midfield battle at this point is too close to call, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And they say that you need a race like this to suddenly shake things up. Suddenly, you think Formula 1's predictable. Toro Rosso will finish between 12th and 15th, something like that, and then there's a wet race, and they could potentially win, like Vettel's first race. Over the course of the season, I think Force India will grab that back, because they've got the faster car, I believe. But a few more races like that, a few more great performances from Sebastian, and then he'd be great in there.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for coming in.
To keep up to date with the latest Formula 1 news, visit www.formula1fancast.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Formula1 FanCast.